7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sail with me into the setting sun. The battle has been won, but war had just begun. And as we grow, emotion starts to die. We need to find a way just to keep our desire alive.
Hey guys, Pinobi here, bringing you not another nerdy Wi-Fi battle, but the first episode of my series, LTP, otherwise known as Let's Talk Pokemon. My tongue is still actually pretty badly cut, so sorry if my narration is in any way difficult to hear or comprehend. If you watched my first video about Let's Talk Pokemon, you do know that this is basically going to be an intelligent discussion hoping to, benefit the community. It's a way for, Poke YouTubers like myself to vent or explain their opinions on certain controversial issues that, for the most part, are not being, conveyed in a positive manner. People, mostly just bitching and griping about stuff. So, let's go ahead and get right to the topic. This is, of course, going to be about entry hazards, as you can see. And by entry hazards, I mean stealth rocks, spikes, and toxic spikes. For those of you that don't know, I am mostly an NU battler, so for the most part, this discussion is entry hazards as they apply to the NU environment, although some of it can be seen, as generic entry hazards information. First of all, I just want to say, I don't really have an opinion on them, as in, do I like them or dislike them? I don't really mind them. I'm not one of the people that, flame entry hazards. I don't dislike them that much, because I do see them as a counter, as I see them as a strategical element to the game, and as someone that very much enjoys team building and strategy, I think it is an extra challenge, it is an extra step you have to take, and that's something I personally enjoy about the game, and enjoy about entry hazards. On the other hand, I do understand that entry hazards, in a big way, disables a lot of Pokemon that people might personally like or favor. For example, I know there are a lot of people that like certain Ice-type Pokemon, and Ice already has 4 weaknesses. I think it is one of the only 2 types in the game, Ice and Grass, I believe, that have 4 weaknesses. Or no, 3. Rock also has 4 weaknesses. So the fact that they would give a type that already has so many weaknesses such a big disadvantage, flying types being heavily hurt by that, although that kind of goes in balance with the fact that they dodge spikes and toxic spikes. But overall, I can understand both sides, people that like them and dislike them, because as I said, people that like them, it is an extra step, it is extra team building, it is extra strategy. There are a lot of counters to entry hazards that people do not utilize, they don't, put into their teams, and to be honest, that is the team builder's fault. You have to, think of these things and work to counter them. If you make a team that has no counter to entry hazards, and you say, oh, I hate entry hazards, blah 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 blah, it's like, okay, well, it's not the person that's using them's fault that you don't feel like incorporating a counter to them in the game. Because that's like, you could say that about anything. Oh, I hate, sweepers, I hate status buffing moves, so I'm just not going to carry any phasers or priority move users. You can't really, that's just a little ridiculous. But on the flip side, Stealth Rocks definitely centralizes the meta, which is not something I particularly enjoy, because it does mean a lot of people are doing the same type of thing. It forces people to use the same type of Pokemon. There's a very limited number of rapid spinners in the NU environment, some of the most reliable ones being Torkoal, maybe Armaldo, definitely Sandslash. I use a Hitmonchan with an SO set. And, there's not much else. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. I'm not going to list every single one. But for the most part, I mean, Torkoal and Sandslash are usually what you see, if at all. And, one of the great things about the NU environment is how diverse it is and how much people love to incorporate original sets. So to have to, put a rapid spinner into every team just to ensure that you don't get, heavily abused by entry hazards is definitely a negative thing for the really original players of the NU environment. Although there are other ways without having to run spinners to counter it. You can make it so that your opponent cannot easily get them set up. I realize that if you carry a Lumberry lead with good bulk, it's very difficult, if not impossible, for your opponent to stop you from setting up your initial rocks. But I'm talking about, triple layers of spikes, double layers of toxic spikes. There is definitely counters to those. If you let your opponent set up 3 layers of spikes, that's kind of your fault. There are many ways to counter that. Taunters, switching into a Pokemon that counters that Pokemon so that you can force them to switch, and if they don't switch, you can kill them. Things like that. So that's definitely something. What else was I going to say? There was another point I wanted to make along those lines. Oh yeah, toxic spikes. Just carry a poison type Pokemon on your team. I also realize that that goes along the same vein as saying, oh, I don't want to carry a spinner. Well, now it's like, okay, I can carry either a spinner or a poison type, and then have my pokes be able to counter some of the other pokes that carry just regular spikes. That really is a lot more plausible and feasible, and you can still run a diverse team with original sets, and it's not that big a deal. And if you don't want to do that, I would say it's more of a laziness issue than an originality issue at that point. Another thing, going over some arguments I've heard, and this isn't to pick on any particular person, because I have heard this multiple times. I'm not sure why, considering it's, in my opinion, such a bad argument. No offense to anyone, but I've heard the argument that Stealth Rocks is cheap in the NU environment because a lot of Pokemon get put in the NU environment specifically because they are Stealth Rock weak. And if that doesn't make sense to you, I don't blame you, because it doesn't make that much sense to me either. I understand what they're trying to say, but to me it's a bad point. I'll elaborate though, trying not to be biased or anything. What they're trying to say is, Pokemon like Articuno, Charizard, stuff like that, stuff that is 4 times weak to Stealth Rocks, gets put into the NU tier just because of that reason. I mean, let's face it, look at Articuno's base stats. Articuno would not be an NU Pokemon if it did not have a 4 times rock weakness. So, they're saying you should not use Stealth Rocks because Pokemon get put into the NU tier because they are Stealth Rock weak. That doesn't really make sense to me. I think that's just logic fail. And the reason I think that, not to just, disregard the argument without reason, my logic behind saying I don't agree with that argument is that basically what you're saying is there are a lot of powerful Pokemon, too powerful to be NU, that are made NU because they're weak to Stealth Rocks. So saying not to use Stealth Rocks, but that you're still allowed to use those Pokemon, is basically telling people to take away the check to that unbalanced power. You're basically purposefully tilting the scales in favor of those Pokemon like Articuno, because yeah, if you are playing an NU game and your opponent says, "Oh, no Stealth Rocks," but then they bring an Articuno, that's pretty broken in my opinion. Or if they bring Charizard, Bellizard, and stuff like that. I mean, they're basically they're telling you not to use the biggest counter to some of their, best pokes. And that's, not really fair. That's like saying, oh, don't bring any priority move users, and I'm gonna bring, Sword Dance, Salic Berry Sweepers, or whatever. So, that's kind of my thoughts on that particular argument. That's my thoughts on entry hazards in general. I mean, they are pretty broken in the sense that they can stack up like crazy, and at the same time I like them. So tell me what you guys think, and see ya.